always following us. All right. Hmm. Okay, it looks like it's working. All right, everybody. Well, thanks those of you that have tuned in so far. That is the whole of one person. We're not going to be able to play tonight. We were hoping we could, but it one of our players, Michael, who's playing the Americans, ended up getting delayed in his activities, and so we're not going to be able to play. But I thought I would share with anybody who's watching or wants to take a look what the situation is here. Kind of catch you up if you hadn't been watching. Um, this is the Battle of Brandywine. I believe it's 1777. And we've got here along the Chad's Ford, we had Kniephausen's detachment attacking. And the game itself started around 420, would you say, David?
Yes.
Yeah. And so for a long time, Kniephausen couldn't really do anything down here. There wasn't much activity happening. The Americans really couldn't move either. And then I think at the 520 turn, the British were finally able to come across the creek based on the scenario rules. And they've been pushing against the American forces that were deployed here.
Evening.
We've had some particularly um, challenging, uh, how would you say, close combat, where the British have made what should have been wonderful, easy 5-1 attacks, only to be getting terrible results that ended up with, units being badly mauled. Of course, in most cases, they were able to destroy their American counterparts, but on the whole, I think that the British ended up losing more than what they gained
Everyone
in
had
the process. Um, the Americans have kind of moved away from uh, deploying near Chad's Ford. They've got some units that they sent back towards Painter's Crossing, and another set that they have marched up towards Dilworth. Moving up towards the northern part of the map, this is the area where the British had kind of come down from the north. This was their big flanking march that Cornwallis did. And due to the maneuvering that the British had done, the Americans abandoned Birmingham Hill without a fight, opting to voluntarily rout and head back towards Dilworth and try to make a line there. And so that's where they're at right now. The Americans have sort of gotten everybody back into some sort of position, rallied most of the guys that had been routed, and Washington's up there now, and the Cornwallis is finally ready to come to grips with those American defenders here at the beginning of the 740 turn. So far, there really hasn't been a lot of combat up here in the northern part because of the Americans' withdrawal from Birmingham Hill. And so this is kind of where things stand. We've been having some fun with this game. For me, this is my first bar game, and so kind of learning how the general mechanics and the flow of the game works has been great. Michael is a very experienced bar player, and he's been very kind, walking both David and I through our our game here and kind of getting a sense of it. And David, I've got you here. Are you still here with us on Discord?
Yes, I am.
Good. What would you say? What's your opinion so far of, or your impressions of this particular game that we've been playing?
The overall, I really like it. We've run into a few issues that we've had to get a little clarification on, and uh, if we were to play it again, it would probably end up slightly different on that. But I really enjoy the bar rules, and it's been fun. It's interesting because I was thinking about it earlier that even though if we were to take the um, calculate the victory points right now, the British would have lost. But there's a part of me that doesn't feel that I lost anything at all here, at least up in the north, because I've completely dominated where he's gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Forced him back. You know, all he's been able to do is run from me. I've taken the ground. I've thinking I'm going. Wait a minute, have I really lost? But according to the victory conditions, we have at this point we have lost the battle, but
yeah. And it's
we
and it's
still have a
mostly
chance.
because it's mostly because of just the wild barbaric attacks. Well, and it's just the if you, the idea that you could have a one or more die rolls that can totally throw what should be a slam dunk attack into something completely crippling is what one of the things that kind of makes the game rules interesting. But at the same stroke, it's kind of like, oh, the best laid plans of mice and men really demonstrated here with just a couple of bad rolls. Well, more than a couple of bad rolls. I say Niephausen is one of the unluckiest commanders out here so far today. So I'm not going to take any blame. I'm going to blame it all on Niephausen. So, but yeah, no, I've been having fun too, and it is interesting to see kind of how the maneuver and everything else kind of goes with this. Um, Now you had played Chotuzits with Michael before. Um, how do what's the sort of difference between that sort of standard European one and this? How do you see the two kind of stacking up, or is it a fair comparison?
Um, Interesting. Well, the Massachusetts game again, that was a very good learning game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly balanced in some the Prussians have uh, better infantry, but they're short on the cavalry, and the Austrian cavalry was a little better, and they're bringing the infantry on the field, whereas the Austrians are already there. They're set up in their two lines, and they're ready to go. And the initially, as I said, I was learning the system, so I probably was not the most effective, especially on my cavalry attacks on the one flank. I probably could have done a little better, but I did move the lines forward and actually make a small break in the Prussian line initially, and um, they didn't hold, and at that point, once the Prussian infantry all got on the field, it was they stabilized the line. They pushed forward and started really. At that point, my losses were mounting, and the morale rules were coming into effect, and it I got pushed over the victory conditions. The cavalry battles on the flanks, I was winning those, not as handily as I should have, but it wasn't enough in the end, and had a. But it was again, it was a. I think for somebody starting, it's a very very good game for it because it's not a very real large game compared to
Right,
some of the other bar games, and the balance is there, and you get uh, the feel of it's open terrain. You get the feel of the rules and how they work very easily and stuff.
right. Yeah, this one we don't have any cavalry, although I understand that there's like an optional rule where both the British and the Americans would have some dragoons here at this battle. I guess in reality, or why they didn't have them here was because they were out screening and searching for fords and whatnot. So it's this battle here has been just sort of a straight up artillery and mostly just infantry type of affair. So um, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I've noticed is that we've got a lot of map, and I always just kind of wonder how much of this ever gets really used, given given where people are coming in and what's going on. Um, and I think that's true for probably a lot of these different games where you got a very large area that encompass the battlefield, but for the most part, we don't have a very high unit density here. Um, it's it's pretty small, the amount of American forces as well as the amount of, uh, of British forces. William is saying yes at 7:40. It's dark. So yeah, William. The we had missed it when we were playing. I think starting in the 6:20 turn or so, they had twilight, and now we are in. Is it darkness or is it
Yeah,
nightfall?
we are in the night turns now.
Yeah, in the night turn. So as a result, movement is limited, and if you move too much, there's disorder rolls and all kinds of unpleasant things happen. So at this particular stage, there's the chances that the British are going to cut off the Americans is next to zero. Um, we might be able to do some damage to their forces up there in Dilworth. Um, but given how kind of late the game starts to a certain extent, um, there's not a whole lot of potential for combat except down there by Chad's Ford. So yeah, but yeah, thanks for pointing that out or reminding us about that, William. So, for anybody who's been watching and enjoying this, this is just a quick overview of what's happened here. We should be having the 7:40 turn happening next week. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And then we will actually play the game next week, and hopefully you guys can catch us then. So, in the meantime, be well.